Is everyone awake? I saw 14 people asleep during Fred's presentation. Actually, I couldn't see the rest of it because I had on rose-colored glasses. So I'm glad you're all here. Everybody enjoying their stay in San Antonio. How many people from the Post in San Antonio area are here? Please raise your hand. How many posts do we have in the San Antonio area? How many members do we have in the 20th district? Why I'm asking that question is it's not a very long drive to this hotel if you live in the San Antonio area. So I don't look at things in rose-colored glasses either. What I do is I tell people how it is. You know, if you have an opportunity for training and you only had to drive a few miles to that training, you should make every attempt to get there. So much for that. This morning we're going to talk about leadership, but more specifically we're going to talk about committees. How many people here are on committees? How many people here want to be on a committee? This morning we're going to try to cover what is a leader, what is a committee, the purposes of committees overall, committee membership makeup and responsibilities of committee members, and how you as an American Legion member can join a membership or a committee. People say, Butch, everybody knows about committees. How many people here can really tell me what a leader is? I'm asking. Yes, sir, Walter.
Oh, you want me to actually do it?
Yes, sir. I don't ask rhetorical questions.
Oh.
So all of you should be on your toes because I ask direct questions.
A leader is someone who motivates his personnel, and then there's a bunch of things he does to do that.
The action of leading a group of people or an organization. You can see this organization, we have our department commander here. Can you understand what he has to go through to get a gaggle of American Legionnaires into one place for a meeting? You're talking about leading. Actually, all of us who, how many people here were not in the military? No. I think sometimes we've had a lot of people wearing a uniform, but I wonder sometimes if they were really in the military, but I ain't going there either. But the point is, sometimes I get people that raise their hands, and I say, I understand now. But leadership is a process. It's not something that you just suddenly say, I'm a leader. Because I know if you're in the military, you learn how to be a leader from the day you went to boot camp or OTS or whatever until you got out. Leadership is a continually thing. What is a committee? I can go through and read all this stuff. You're going to get a handout on this, but the way I describe a committee is like a football team. I know we got one person here as academia back there, Mr. John Hines. Just imagine the Dallas Cowboys, not my favorite team, but let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. A committee, basically a professional football team is made up of a committee, right? You have a head coach, you have a line coach, backfield, I have all these sub people that are actually a committee. Can you imagine the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys or any other team trying to run the whole process by themselves? Wouldn't work very well, would it? It would really be a confusing mess. Well, the American Legion is sort of similar to that. The committee, American Legion, should be made up of dedicated people who want to better the American Legion. Unfortunately, we have a lot of people that want to get on committees for their own personal gain. They really don't really care about the things that they want to do. Can somebody give me some examples of the purposes of committees in the American Legion?
To get people to better understand, to know what we're all about more.
If we didn't have committees in the American Legion, we would probably be really a dysfunctional organization. Is that not true? Best example I get is the Department Executive Committee. How many district commanders do we have in here? How many other officers do we have in here sit on the District Executive Committee? Okay, how many other officers do we have in, other committee chairs that we have in this room? All right, good show. Here's some of the examples of America. Committees can be from post level all the way up to national. But here are some examples of some of the Legion committees. There's more and more of those, as you all know. The makeup of the committees, you got to have a committee chair, you got to have committee members, and you got to have a scribe or a secretary. You see that word I got up there in blue letters? Commitment. If you want to be a chairman of a committee in the American Legion, you got to be committed to the purpose of that committee. And in doing so, you've got to know what that committee's purpose or job is. How do you know what the purpose of that job is? Anybody can tell me that? How do you find out the purpose of that job?
You've got to read on it or ask others.
You got to read on it, that's true, but you can also talk to who? People who sat there before, right?
Yes.
You remember Fred mentioned about mentoring. Always try to mentor your replacement, and that includes committees. You definitely got to have the working knowledge, but you got to keep up to date. You know, I see a lot of committees at post level, they have the same people, same chairman, and what happens is, do they read the newspaper on public relations, or do they read the newspaper on other events? Do they get on the website? Do they look at emails? No. So what happens is you've got someone running a committee that's really not knowledgeable or up to date. And guess what happens when you have a committee meeting and you have a committee chair that's not current in what they do?
You lose interest in the committee.
You're going to lead people which way?
Wrong.
Wrong way. And guess what happens when you tell people the wrong information and you lead them the wrong way? They usually get disoriented or get disinterested, and you usually end them as members of your committee. Timetables. Do we have any timetables on committees in the American Legion? Give me some examples. Membership. What do we have? Like, what comes up in October? No, we have target dates, do we not? Okay, who's responsible, using that for an example, who's responsible at post level to make sure that the membership meets the target date? Who?
All of you.
Every member of that post, right? Although you might have a membership committee and they do that, but the catch of it is everybody should be an ad hoc member of that membership committee, even though they're not on the membership committee, but it's the primary responsibility of the chairman of that committee to make sure that information is done and completed. Who, if you're going to have, let's use a committee here, let's use the Long Range Planning Committee. Let's use the Training Committee. How often do these committees meet at department?
3 times.
3 times, right? I'll give you a scenario. They have a long-range planning meeting on here. The next one will be scheduled in January. What happens between now and January?
Planning.
What happens between now and January?
Holidays.
Usually not very much. And the reason I bring that up is just not at the department level, but at post, national, district, and everywhere else. You need to have a contact list of emails, phone numbers, and whatever, and you should communicate with the members of that committee. The chairman should communicate with the committee between meetings, so when you get your agenda for the next meeting in January, you've covered the areas between now and then, and you keep people current on what's happening. So therefore, when you have your meeting in January, you will have up-to-date information. Does everybody understand where I'm going with that? Communication. What we have, my favorite phrase is, what we have here is a failure to what?
Communicate.
Right. Okay, so you need to maintain, the chairman needs to maintain the contact information, email, phone numbers, and whatever, for everybody on his committee or her committee. Coordinate. A committee is actually a subset of the bigger picture, so therefore the committee chairman's got to coordinate with the other committees that may or may not relate to what he or she is doing or his committee's responsibilities. So make sure that you commit and communicate with the other committees at post. How do you do that at a post level? How do you communicate with the other committee members at post level?
Call, text.
Text. Also, what do you have? You have meetings, do you not? Executive committee meetings? Do you not communicate with, do you not give committee reports to those executive committee members? What kind of report should you have?
Written report.
Why is it important to have written reports?
So if anybody wants to ask you anything for your record.
Preparation.
Yes, sir.
So you can inform your membership.
Not only can you inform your membership, but what happens if you don't have written reports? Like you have a meeting today, and tomorrow, what happens? If you're like me, I probably forgot it 15 minutes after I gave it. But it also, documentation. Documentation is preservation. It always gives you something to go back to. It also becomes part of the record of the post-level district division. Therefore, you have a history of that meeting, and you also have documentation to go back to at a later date if there's questions, debates, or whatever. So it's important that all reports, all committee reports, be written. Okay? Then, what's important when you get the report? Should it be approved only by the chairman of that report committee? You should get buy-in by everyone's on the committee. Is that correct? If you are a committee chairman, does that mean that you just send your report in, you don't have to go to the meetings or show up, or what does that tell you if you are going to make a report of a committee and you just send it in? What does that tell the other members of your organization? You really don't care. The word communicate. We got to communicate. When you're a chair of the American Legion Committee, you got to communicate with everyone that's involved with that committee. Members. Everyone here, how many people here are members of the committee again? All right. You got to make a commitment to, in this case we'll talk to the department, you got to make a commitment to this gentleman over here to be on a committee. And if you make that commitment to do the job that you're assigned to, guess what's going to happen to the Department of Texas this year? We're going to have a successful year. We can't put the whole workforce or the whole responsibility on our department commander, the executive committee. We got to all be part of the process as committee members and make up the committee. How many scribes do we have in here? Does everybody know what a scribe is? Excuse me? Gnuts? Oh, okay, that's probably a good thing. It's amazing, when you have a committee meeting, you have the person taking the notes is probably the key to success of a committee. You know, because if they don't take good notes, then the purpose and the message that the committee is trying to achieve will get lost. A lot of times the scribe is usually the junior person of the committee. Why do you think most of the time they put the junior person on the committee as the scribe? Excuse me? It's a learning process, is it not? I know when we go to national, they usually take the junior member of our tables to collect money and take notes. Usually, I don't know, I think that might be punishment at national level, but initiation, I guess that's an even better word. But the catch of it is, after the minutes are written, then the scribe or the secretary should provide a copy of those or have another meeting to go over the meeting minutes with every member of that committee. Does that make sense? And then you have a joint approval of that process. How many people here want to be on a committee? Why would you want to be on a committee? To serve the American Legion, right? What if the Department of Texas said, we'd like to have you on a committee, but we're not going to pay you any money to be on that committee? Would you still want to be on a committee?
Yes.
How many people said that? You know, committees is an important part of our organization, as I've said before, but more importantly, what the committee does is important. Every member of the American Legion should be involved in some form or fashion on a committee. You agree with that? And if you get people involved that's on a committee, guess what they are going to do? They're going to learn. And then they're going to talk to their neighbors and the other people, and they're going to learn. So the community and the Legion is going to grow. How can you participate? You can just sit in, and there's no such thing as a closed meeting. Is that not correct, the American Legion? So therefore, you can go sit in, even if you're on a committee or not a committee. You should sit in every one that you can, especially like at the department. All these various committees meet throughout the week. I would highly recommend you go sit into them because, in fact, you learn what's happening in the whole organization. Then later on, you'll have a better, when you go home, you'll have a better understanding to tell your post-membership what's happening at the department level in this case. But also at a post level, if you attend all these meetings, you'll be able to sit in a general membership meeting and have a better idea of what the post is doing. Okay, let's talk about the definition of a leader. Somebody define leader for me again.
Motivate and direct personnel.
Persuade others.
Support.
Motivate others.
How about a committee? Somebody define the committee for me.
Working for and come and go.
Purposes of committees. We are the backbone, committees are the backbone of what? Any organization. But committees, if without committees in the American Legion, we would really be in trouble. Would we not? Why would we be in trouble? Because in fact it would be such a heavy workload on just a few people that we wouldn't have public relations, we wouldn't have finance, we wouldn't have a lot of programs, and we wouldn't have members. Final thought. Remember, committee actions or inactions at all levels, post and national, play a significant role in the success or failure of the American Legion. So I asked you this question. Are you going to be part of the success or are you going to be part of the failure of the American Legion?
Success.
And the reason I say that is the following. We've heard a lot of discussion about membership going down. we've heard a lot of things about, like in 2007, guess what our membership was in the state of Texas? Could somebody give me an idea what it is? How about 97,000? This year our goal is what? So therefore, I ask each of you to become a part of a new committee. Guess what that committee is? I ask that you become part of the American Legion, the Department of Texas, let's get the members back on board committee. Does that sound like a plan? And I've asked this before, and I'm sure the commander asked and other people asked. All you have to do is go out and recruit one. Do I have a commitment from the folks in this room to commit at least one member this coming year? And guess what? You will be part of the best committee the organization's got. You will be part of the committee of the American Legion that will help us get back to 97,000 members. Do you think we can get 97,000 members? I've heard people tell me, well, Butch, there's no way we can do this. There's no way we can do this and no way we can do that. But you know, if we adopt that attitude of this I can't do it committee, guess what the committee is going to achieve? We are going to be a failure. And I don't think the people in here are going to be a failure. Are you people a failure? No. Do you want the Department of Texas to become a failure? Do you want us to get embarrassed at National when the department commander says, why aren't you, the National commander tells our department commander, why aren't you doing something? You want to be part of that committee? No. So this is my definition, and this is my situation on committees. I want the best membership, Department of Texas, recruiting, on and on type committees. I want each of you to dedicate maybe 5 minutes of your time each day to sit down, go on the website, look at all the committee reports that you can see on the website, go to National and look at all the committee reports there, and look at the resolutions and look at this stuff, just asking you for 5 minutes a day. And guess what's going to happen when you go on that website or some resource and read something about a committee for 5 minutes a day? Guess what's going to happen?
Ask questions.
And guess what's the next thing is you're going to do? You can get up at your post meeting and say, last week I looked at so-and-so this on this committee, or I saw this on, as a member of the Post. You can get up and use it to push this thing called knowledge is power. So I have your promise, and trust me, I know whoever one's here. The room's bugged, by the way. I've got my historian back there. She's the department historian's taking notes on this, so she's going to put it in the history book. But that's a diverse. This presentation is really good. You'll get a copy of that. But I am really sincere. We need people that are dedicated for the American Legion. And I'm not asking, I want you to go back and ask your folks at the Post too. We're not asking for them to spend weeks and weeks and weeks on their committees, but ask them to get involved in some committee. Because if we get involved in committees and get people interested in the American Legion, they're going to join. I have a brand new commander here at 223 in Killeen. I'll use him for an example. He's a youngster, according to some of us. And the catch of it is, these are the people we need to go out and recruit and put on our membership committee. These people are turning the Legion around. Some of us need to learn to sit in the back and let the youngsters take over. But how are these youngsters going to take over? We need to help them, mentor them, and become part of their, I call it the new breed committee. And people laugh at me when I say that, but we got to look at the OEF veterans, and we got to be the mentoring committee. Any questions?
Butch, I'd like to say one thing.
Yes.
You was talking about us going out and getting new members. We need to also try to bring back the ones that have left, that has been gone maybe 1 or 2 years or just got fed up with the Legion. We need to try to bring them back, make them see that we are trying our best to make a difference, and it's worth giving us another try.
How many people here know what mylegion.org is? How many people in here get on mylegion.org? A lot of people think that that is really good stores. You know, we keep concentrating on new members, which is good, but we need to concentrate on all of our. And somebody asked a question: why do these people leave? How many posts here have a welcome committee? A welcome committee. Does everybody know what a welcome committee is at a post? That's when you get a new member and you have someone there, maybe 2 or 3 people is responsible. Well, at least I know who's awake and who's asleep. But have a welcome team or a committee, and their job is, the adjutant could give this welcome committee a list of the new members. The welcome committee could call them, welcome them to the post, welcome them to the meeting, and when they come to the meetings, you greet them when they get to the meeting. You give them a copy of the newsletter, or you give them a copy of the post constitution and bylaws, but you sit and have a group sit down and say, we are the welcoming committee. We will, just like when you move into a new community, you have they come around and welcome you to the neighborhood or whatever. This is a key, I think, in a post, is when new members come in, we just sort of treat them like, oh, here they are. They'll come back, maybe not. But if you don't welcome them properly, guess what?
They're not going to want to come back.
But not only are they not going to come back, their neighbors and other people that they might know, they're going to say, well, I see you join Post XYZ, and guess what they're going to say? Oh, but they're unfriendly. So I'm going to leave you with that. That's 2 things I want you to, yes, sir, Joe.
Oh, I just want to point out a problem in the 12th that we have is that I have commanders trying to do too much. Don't have the committees in place, or as you started out saying, that the members are on these committees because it is popular to do so, but they're not doing the job. And I have too many of my commanders being stretched in all different directions trying to do everything. They're the custodian. They're the bar manager, you know, they're the welcoming committee, they're all of this, the membership committee, you know, I'm telling them. And we're trying to break that. That goes back to that first section, that culture of our posts, you know. You get elected some of the posts, then all of these meaningful jobs are yours. Nobody else wants to do them. And that is a perception now that I'm trying to iron out, that we're working with, and I hope this young man here is not saddled with that he's going to have to do all the dirty work, all the low menial jobs around the post because he is the commander. So from this, sir, get your committees and make sure that they work and make sure that they report. But this is something in the 12th district that I'm having to, or we are having to address there. Too many of my commanders are stretched in too many different directions trying to do everything around the post.
I think you're going to find that universal in the whole department, Joe. Yes, sir, Arturo.
I agree with Joe wholeheartedly. Basically, we get too many people that are wearing the hat, but not doing the job. They get elected to for the position. They get elected to the position, whatever it might be, officer, a bigger committee, but all they want to do is wear the hat and sit there and not do a thing. You challenge them, order them, direct them, and they sit there, they fight you back, which is, you know, it's tiring. It beats the commanders down. And I don't want to discourage you, sir, but ask any of us for help. We'll help you. Absolutely.
As proposed to, I've been involved with the scouting for many years. And one of the things that I learned, right, in scouting, right, and this is not just the commanders, it's all members. If you identify the skills of your membership, as one of the things that I learned in the Army, right, You identify the strong skills of a soldier, right? And then you ask them if they would like to learn more. And that is where you learn more skills. And one example I can give you, when I joined the scouting program, nobody liked to work in the kitchen. Today, as I did in 1974, I did catering. I love working in the kitchen. I love watching pots and pans. You know, and I say in post too. I'm not a cook, but I'll wash pots and pans. It's just, you have to identify the strong skills that people just enjoy doing. Thank you.
Which, as we used to say in the NWA, let's all come part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Did everybody hear that? Yes, sir. Did we have people in this room that can solve the American Legion problems? You know, I look at not a definition of a committee, but I look at a definition of a team as like a piece of thread. A piece of thread is very weak, is it not? But if you take a whole bunch of pieces of thread and wind and entwine them, guess what you have? You have a very strong rope. And I think we as a group in the state of Texas, Legionnaires, can take and become one piece of that rope, thread, time it all, and I tell you what, I think we're going to have a great year. Any other input? Thanks again for being here. I'm available, and I'm sure Fred is, and I'm sure Barry is, and Karen and others, and our PR chairman in the back room. Yeah, we're all available to help. If you need help on any, not just anything, just ask. You know, we're a phone number away, and if you check, there's handouts. My handout will have my phone number and email on it. And then I'm sure Barry and others will be glad to help on any type of committee or any type of situation that will help the American Legion grow. That's what we're all about. I appreciate your time and being here today. And who's next on the agenda? David. Yes, sir.